Ladies and gentlemen, future billionaires, startup warriors, professional overthinkers, garage dreamers, late-night hustlers, and corporate escape artists, I want to tell you something very important today, something they don't write on whiteboards in business school, something your career counselor probably won't print on a brochure. You can graduate with honors, wear the smartest suit in the room, get straight A's, be the teacher's favorite student, and still completely suck at business. Yes, you heard me right. You can ace every test and still fail in real life. School is a wonderful place. It taught me how to read, how to write, how to sit quietly for 8 hours without strangling my desk partner, and how to cry silently during math class while pretending I understood calculus. But let's be honest, school is more about memorization than transformation. It teaches you how to follow instructions, not how to break barriers. It teaches you how to solve problems on paper, not in the marketplace. If you want to learn how to make money, how to survive in the real world, how to build a business from scratch with no money, no experience, and no connections, then my friend, you won't find that knowledge in a textbook. You won't find it in a lecture hall. And you definitely won't find it in a PowerPoint presentation with pie charts and bullet points. In school, they say if you copy, you fail. But in business, if you don't copy the right models, you fail faster. In school, you get the lesson first and then the test. But in business, life throws you the test first. And if you're lucky, and I mean lucky, you might understand the lesson before you go completely broke. So today, I want to talk to you not as Jack Ma, the billionaire, but as Jack Ma, the guy who failed his university entrance exam twice, got rejected from 30 jobs, including KFC, and somehow still ended up founding Alibaba. Let's begin. In school, if you get 60%, you pass. In business, if you get 60% right, you still might go bankrupt. In school, you sit in a classroom with air conditioning. In business, you're in the jungle. You fight competitors. You fight for attention. You fight for funding. And sometimes you fight with your co-founder who still hasn't showered in 3 days because launch day is near. School teaches you how to avoid mistakes. Business, it teaches you that mistakes are part of the process. In fact, if you're not making mistakes, you're not moving fast enough. I failed many times. My first 2 ventures were disasters. One was a translation company with no clients. The second one, well, let's just say it failed so badly even my mom said, "Jack, maybe it's time to open a dumpling stall." But I learned, I adapted, I got punched in the face. Then I got up and started punching back with strategy, with courage, with a team. So don't worry if you fail your business exam. Worry if your business never tests you at all. I meet a lot of smart people with fancy MBAs. They know the theory of business. They can write a 20-page report on market trends and do a SWOT analysis while blindfolded. But many of them are broke. Meanwhile, there's a guy in China who didn't finish high school, but he sells spicy noodles on TikTok and makes more money than the entire economics department of your university. Why? Because business rewards execution, not education. If you're not taking action, your degree is just an expensive wall decoration. Now, don't get me wrong, education is important. But I've seen people with zero business background run circles around Harvard grads simply because they have hustle, street smarts, and the courage to fail. When I started Alibaba, I didn't even know how to code. I didn't have money. I didn't have connections. I only had a vision and a few crazy friends who believed in it. School told me I was underqualified, but the market, it said, "Jack, if you can solve my problem, I'll pay you." That's business. Let me ask you this. How many of you have been rejected? Raise your hands. Okay, put them down before we all start crying. I've been rejected so many times, I started collecting rejection letters like they were baseball cards. Harvard said no. KFC said no. Police department said no. Even my crush in high school said, "Jack, you're a nice guy, but I'm into tall men with stable careers." It hurt. But do you know what rejection taught me? Persistence, creativity, and hunger. Every no taught me how to become better. Every closed door forced me to build a new one. Every failure made my skin thicker than a dragon's scale. And in business, if your skin is thin, you won't last. So don't be afraid of rejection. Embrace it. Let it fuel you. Some of the greatest companies were built by people who were told, "This will never work." I was one of them. In school, if you ask too many questions, the teacher gets annoyed. "Jack, just read the book." But in business, if you don't ask questions, you go broke. The most powerful skill in business is not knowing the answer. It's knowing what question to ask. What problem am I solving? Who is my customer? Why should they choose me? How do I scale this without losing my mind? You have to keep asking over and over because the market is always changing. If you stop asking, you stop growing. In school, they reward answers. In business, the person who asks the best questions usually ends up owning the company. In school, we are told to study hard, keep your notes clean, don't copy your classmate, be independent. In business, copy the best, partner with others, and please, for the love of profits, don't do it all alone. When I started Alibaba, I wasn't the smartest, I wasn't the richest, but I had a great team, people who were smarter than me in many ways. Your network is your safety net. I meet a lot of young entrepreneurs who say, Jack, I want to do it all myself. And I say, great, I'll see you in the hospital in 6 months. You need people, you need partners, you need mentors. School doesn't teach you how to build relationships. But in business, relationships are the most valuable asset you have. Don't just collect contacts, build real connections. In school, we are taught to be correct. Fill in the right bubble. Follow the rubric. Don't color outside the lines. In business, you better color like a crazy person. Correctness is boring. It doesn't stand out. The world doesn't need another correct business. It needs a creative one. Steve Jobs said, think different. I say, think weird, think crazy, think upside down. Why did Alibaba succeed? Because we did things differently. We didn't try to copy Amazon. We understood the Chinese market, and we played by a different rule book. I've seen businesses fail because they were too scared to be original. Don't be afraid to look stupid. Be afraid of looking like everyone else. When you pitch to a customer, do you think they care about your resume? No. They want to know, can you solve my problem? Can you make my life easier, faster, cheaper, or better? In school, grades are everything. In business, value is everything. If you can create value, they will pay. If you can't, they'll ghost you like your ex. So stop worrying about looking smart. Worry about being useful. When we launched Alibaba, we weren't polished. Our website looked like a teenager made it during lunch break, but it worked. It connected buyers and sellers. It solved a real problem. That's what matters. In school, we're taught that failure is something to be ashamed of. A red mark on your report card, a disappointed look from the teacher, or worse, a silent dinner at home. Failure in school often feels like the end of the road. You failed the test, retake the class. You didn't meet the standard, repeat the year. It's a rigid system that punishes you for trying and not getting it perfect on the first attempt. But in business, oh no. Failure is not the end. It's not even the middle. In business, failure is tuition. It's the price you pay for real hands-on education. And trust me, I have paid that tuition many times. Sometimes with money, sometimes with pride, sometimes with my sanity. Before Alibaba, I started 2 ventures that flopped so hard, even my mother said, Jack, maybe it's time to get a real job. I lost money, yes, but I also lost time, confidence, and a little bit of my hair. I slept on office floors, drank instant noodles for dinner, and had meetings with investors who looked at me like I was trying to sell them flying donkeys. But here's the truth. Those failures were my best teachers. School never taught me how to explain bad news to angry investors. It never taught me how to motivate a panicked team when the money runs out. It never taught me how to manage fear, uncertainty, and chaos all in the same day. Business did. Each failure made me tougher, wiser, sharper, more creative, and most importantly, more dangerous. Because I didn't just fail, I learned from it. So when you fail, and you will, don't just cry, don't quit, don't complain, take notes. You just paid for a lesson. Don't let it go to waste. In school, your teacher might say, it's okay, you tried your best. In business, the market says, your best wasn't good enough. It's brutal, it's cold, but it's honest. The market doesn't care if you had a bad day. It doesn't care if your team is tired. It only cares about results. And that's okay. Because this pressure, it makes diamonds. I've had days where everything went wrong. Servers crashed. Investors pulled out. Competitors stole our ideas. My team looked at me like, Jack, what now? And I smiled. I said, now we dance. Because that's what entrepreneurs do. We dance in the fire. You don't need to wait for the perfect idea, the perfect time, or the perfect team. Start where you are. Start with what you have. Start scared, but start anyway. Because business is not about being perfect. It's about being brave. I was an English teacher. I had no business background, but I had a dream. And that dream plus action plus crazy friends plus a lot of coffee and stress-eating dumplings became Alibaba. So what school won't teach you is this. You are enough. Right now. Right here. Don't wait for a diploma to give you permission. The market is open. The world is waiting. Go build. Go fail. Go learn. Go again. And one day, you'll look back and laugh at how scared you were to begin. That's business. That's life. That's freedom. Thank you. Now go out there and fail your way to greatness.